Hello, I'm Chris, this is Gross Models. Welcome to this upgrade modification video for the Terminator build, the T800, the base, the second one. The first one I did was about the skulls, which I have continued to adapt and evolve. I've repainted the teeth and given it all a bit more of a skull-like yellow sort of finish to that, which is going to sit over there. I've done much the same with the other parts, and indeed I have painted up the two extra bits that have just appeared in the last couple of issues. So I still won't be putting those on quite yet, although by the end of this video I may. But first of all, we need to do something with the base. Now, the first panel came in and I was alright, I was happy with it. But then the second one came in and I wasn't so happy, and now it's all bolted together. It's got the big metal plate down the bottom and the supporting rods coming up the top here. It's rubbish. The colours don't quite match, as you can't quite see on the camera there, but more importantly we've got big joined seam lines and things that are just not what I hoped for, not what I want. So I'm going to be doing a complete repaint of the entire base. First of all, we need to mask off the tubes and the lights. I'm not going to be doing anything with those yet. I'm still undecided. I might make them rusty. I might make these a bit old and worn and rusty. I might not. I think at the moment I'm going to leave them as they are. So first of all, I need to mask them. I've got some masking tape. You can use painter's tape or anything like that. Basically, it's just a slightly sticky. It's like a little bit more sticky than Post-it notes, which you can put on and won't leave any residue and things like that. So this is basically just going to have to go around. Might be easier to use paper or something where I need to get it down into the base. But yeah, basically all of this, how can I show you what I'm doing without everything going everywhere? There we go. About there. Mind the batteries falling out, because that's going to be an ongoing theme. I'm just going to put this around the base. It doesn't matter if it's exact, because if it's going to get a little bit of paint on it, that's fine. That's that. I'll cover the top as well on all four of those and the tubes, and I might put some tape over that, hold that in place as well, because I need to tidy that up. That's that. I shall get it masked up and then we'll start with a base coat. Okay, there's a change of plan. I've actually got some of this, which is going to be quite useful. It's masking tape with plastic attached. So all you need to do with this is obviously cut off however much you want, like that, and this will come out to cover larger areas if you need to. That's what it's sort of designed for, but I'm going to use it to cover the inside of the tube, so I don't need it to be that long. I'm going to tear it off there, get that shoved into the hole, and then mask that around the top like that. So that's how I'm going to do it. It's a little bit easier than using lots of tape and things like this. So I shall see you soon when I've got it masked up, ready for the first coat. Okay, that's masked up all of the flashlights, the floodlights, and I masked up the switch, don't forget that. I haven't worried about making it an exact nice shape, because it's going to be covered by the skull anyway. Doesn't matter if it's a bit messy around the outside here. So yeah, that's that. One other thing, the stone that goes over the top on the bit that you can't see. Yeah, you definitely can't see it. Can't maneuver things around enough anymore. There we go. It goes over that bit, but goes over the top of a metal part, which looks nice. It's, you know, nicely painted already. So I've just got to paint and prime that. It's going to be a little bit different to the surrounding area, but not wildly. So it still needs the same level of priming and tidying. The other metal parts obviously aren't on there yet, because they already look very, very good. So before I do some priming and painting, I do need to tidy up this seam line. So I'm just going to get some filler in there, just to blend it over, let it dry a bit, sand it back down so it's not rough edges like what it is at the moment. All the way across, all the way around there. I can't do anything about that bit. Obviously the battery pack does still need to be able to be removed to change the batteries, so I can't tidy up that seam. But I can still paint the rest of it around and make it blend in a little bit better than it is at the moment. For this, I'm going to try some sprue glue. I don't know if it's going to work, because it won't obviously work the same way, because it's not polystyrene, it won't melt into it and blend in the same way as it normally should. But hopefully, because it's not too much to worry about, it should just get rid of that lumpy seam and make it a more blended seam. I have got some clay which I could use to blend it if need be, but I'm going to try this first. This is the easiest method, so it's worth trying first. If it doesn't work, it's all going to be covered up anyway, so it's not, you know, no big loss. But just to make this a little bit less obvious a seam, it's already got moves to it, although, you know, if it's not a dead straight line, so that would be a problem. And it does hide itself amongst some of the rocks. So I'm hoping this is going to be okay. If you don't know what sprue goo is, it's basically just Tamiya extra thin cement, which has got polystyrene, plastic sprues or plastic card melted into it. You just put it in and it dissolves it and makes basically a liquid plastic, which you can use to fill seams on model kits. I'm hoping it's going to work on this, but we'll find out. Once it's dry, I might need to give it another coat, another layer. But we'll see how it comes up, and we'll see what it looks like before I get the painting on. So here you can see where I've been doing some of the seam removal. I've used some sprue goo, and it's now not a ridge, it's a gentle slope, which once I get some more paint and mud effect, well, the paint obviously you won't be able to see it, and the mud effects, you shouldn't be able to feel it either. Not that you're going to be touching it. Right, next up I'm going to prime all this and then get on with some painting. I was going to use a grey primer, which would work as a base anyway, but I've run out of grey primer, so I'm going to use black because I've got black. So I shall just be covering all of this in black primer and then starting to build up some greys for the stones. Obviously not worrying about the big flat areas. I've got the single stone to do as well. So I can't film getting the primer on. I'll get that done and then I'll show you what it looks like, but it's going to be like this but black. But hopefully you won't be able to notice any of this shiny white area anymore. Okay, that's just finished spraying, so it already looks much better in my opinion. It does need the stones obviously coming back in grey. This is actually blacker than it looks on the picture because of white balance and everything else. But yeah, I'm happy with how that's come out. This is not perfect, but most of it's fine. There are a couple of seams along here, this sort of bit, that I'm still going to need to go back and do again, and then touch up with the primer once again. As it's drying, I'm seeing a couple of bits over here that again aren't quite done, but it will need a little bit more touching up. So once this is pretty dry, I can come back in a couple of spots with some more sprue goo and then more primer, and then it should be ready to start the actual painting. As you can see, it's literally just been painted. You can see there's a couple of blobs of moist paint still there, but yes, that's that. So I'll get that done, I'll get that touched up, I'll get it primed, and then I can start on the stones. So I'll come back when I've made a start on the stones, because you don't need to see the intermediate parts. Okay, I've done some updates, as you can see. I have started with some mud just to make sure it was working as intended, and it does seem to be. I have done the grey on the stones, so you can see it's obviously different to the black that's not on the stones. I haven't worried about the overspray because of obviously the mud is going to be covering it over. So what I'm doing now is what I have, again, started a little bit just to make sure it was going to work. I'm using some different grey, a medium grey, on a wet palette, just anything you like. And I'm just putting some down on there, and then using a very soft brush. This is actually a makeup brush, not my makeup brush, obviously. Well, it is mine, but you know what I mean. So this is for dry brushing. Now, dry brushing, if you aren't aware of it, is a very easy, quick way of getting a bit of paint on without painting everything. So what you do is load up the brush with some paint, not loads, so just a bit on the end there, and then I'm basically going to spread it around a little bit to get it across more of it, and then get rid of most of it on a bit of tissue. So that's all, basically lots of that coming off. And then on the edges of stones, I just need to brush it in place. That's actually too much on there, so let's get rid of some of that, get rid of some more, and then try again. That's better. So that's basically just very lightly scuffing across some of the edges Probably not very, very visible, but it's just creating a little bit of variety. Again, might still be too much on there. It's a little bit wetter than it should be. That's a bit better. So this is not the end result. I'm going to end up coming back over this with an even lighter dry brush to pick out some more detail and things on it, but hopefully this should give you an idea. You might be able to see some of it changing colour just a little bit at the edges. Now I'm going to be going over the mud again with a second coat anyway, so it doesn't matter if I do sort of scuff this onto it somewhat, as you can see I've done down there just a little bit. But yeah, this seems to be working, so I'm going to get all of this done with some dry brushing. This is obviously the loose bit that's going to go down here. Yeah, get some of this done. It'll add some more texture and sort of feel to some of the stones to stop them looking and feeling quite so flat. So this, some more mud, and then coming back in. Actually, I shall show you some of the mud while I'm doing this. What I'm using is some AK Splatter Effect wet mud. Now, I could use a different muds and other things on there, but this one seems to work quite well, and it's one that I already had to hand. So this is basically just a paint that I'm applying with a brush, and I'm just putting it on the ground parts, basically. Being a bit careful to avoid the stones, because I don't want the mud covering the stones, although getting a bit up the side on a couple of places isn't the end of the world. It's going to be fine if that sort of thing happens. So yeah, I'm basically just going to get a bit of everything done. As I say, I need to come back in with a second coat over this anyway, so I might get all of the mud done and the stones done, sort of alternating between the two, just to stop myself getting bored. But once that's done, I'll come back in with a little more targeted highlighting for the stones to make them look a little bit more edgy, a bit closer to what they were originally, but not in a horrible way. So I'm going to cover over some of the smaller stone areas, like this bit around here, with the mud, because mud would splash up everywhere anyway. So that is basically that. I'm going to do a lot of this, obviously, off camera, because you don't need to sit properly else. The camera's in quite slightly the wrong place. Let me shift it back down a little bit. There you go. So yes, I'll do some of this off camera, because you don't want to be watching this. The holes that the speaker are going to come out of, I can basically poke them out with something afterwards if they do get a little bit gummed up with some mud. I will drop down to a smaller brush to get in between some of the stones there as well. Now this pile at the back here, I'm going to do as mainly mud with some stones sticking out of it, as I've done over the other side. Obviously there's big stones there that need a little bit more attention because I want them to look good. So yeah, I shall see you very shortly when I've done some more of this, and you can see what it's going to look like. Okay, I've added some more different textures. I've been using a combination of these Ammo by MIG mud things, thick soil, moist ground, and some turned dirt. Now all of these are just paint, basically. They're sort of textured and they sort of dry in interesting ways. So I'm going to put a little bit more of the turned dirt on. This is quite a thin paint, and I don't really want it that heavy, so I'm going to get rid of some of it off of the brush here. And then on some of these sort of muddier areas, I'm going to be applying some of this. I'm going to get some of it onto the stones around as well, but it's just to create a bit of a more sort of variance and a little bit more texture around. So not paying much attention to where it's going. As I say, getting some on the stones around it as well, because it's meant to be mud and dirt and stuff that's going all over the place. So a little bit of painting, a little bit of sort of dotting it on as well. You could use a sponge or something like that as well if you want to make it even more variable. but I'm quite happy with how it's coming out. I've done a few other textures in different areas as well. I'm happy with how the finish on the stones has come out. That's pretty much done, I think, except for, actually, I've got some mud on there. I'll have to touch that up again. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Once this has dried, and I've got a few more bits in different areas, I shall be coming back in with some washes. I've got some of these flooring models. I've got dark dirt, grime, and sand as a wash, which I'll be using again in different amounts in different areas, basically all over the place, just to create a little bit more interest and variation, because the ground's not all the same. I'm not going to be covering everything, but I am going to be adding some more variations around it, because it was a little bit too plain and boring for me before. So just a little bit of texture and shading in a couple of places, and that should be just about it. So I'll come back when I've got the washes ready to go, and we'll see how it's going to look. Okay, let's try some dark dirt and see what that's going to do. Now, this is a wash, so in theory you should be able to put it on and brush it off again. I'm going to try it on a bit of the stone. I don't really want to get it very, very dirty, so I am going to sort of tone it down a bit and almost dry brush some of it. I will get it heavier into some places, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that it's going to work as I would like it to. Let's try some down in here where it's not going to be seen anyway. What I'm more concerned about is that it's going to look like I've just brushed something onto, you know, everywhere. If I do it thick enough, then it's probably not going to look terrible. But I don't know. I'm still not convinced. So let's try a couple of areas, sort of the edges where things are going to be covering it anyway. And we'll see how it looks, and we'll see, more importantly, how it looks when it dries a bit. So let's get some of that over there, covering a couple of the different things and areas. Get a bit more on that. I think that's going to be too much, but that's why we're testing it out on a different area. See how it's going to look. I'll come back when that's dried, and we'll see if that brings it together and makes it look better or not. So stick around for, well, a couple of seconds. Well, it's done something. I'm not entirely certain what it's done, so I'll continue on and apply it to some areas. I'm not going to cover the entire thing with it, because some bits like the big stone I'm quite happy with. So I'll get more of it done and then see how it looks afterwards, but I'm not going to film that because it's already very, very long. Okay, that was some back and forth with powders. I've got some pigments, metal slag pigment, which has left the dusty effect on some of it. I'm quite happy with how it's come out. There's some bits that are still not quite right, but all in all, I think that's about where I was aiming for. So what I'm going to do now is get all of the furniture back on, the skull on the pipes and everything else, and see how it looks in the flesh with it all on. It's going to need a little bit of finalising and finishing off. There's still a few bits that are a bit too shiny, but I want to see how it all looks together. So I'm going to get that together. I'll get a better camera angle so you can actually see how it looks together like that as well, and then we'll see what we need to do just to finish it off. Okay, there we have it with all of the parts on so far. I know there's still a chain to come, but I think that's the final bit that's going to be added to it. So, yeah, I don't know exactly where the chain, I'm obviously just going to drape it across somewhere. But being that that's one of the metallic type parts, might even be metal, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be okay. This is pretty much the finish. Now, I'm not unhappy about the shininess of a couple of parts here and there, because from a different angle it doesn't show quite so apparently. All in all, I'm not unhappy. I'm going to add a little bit more of the wash, so some not sand, maybe some grime and dark dirt, and just a darker wash over a couple of parts here and there, again just to break it up a little bit and to bring home some of these parts that are attached. They're not actually glued in place as yet. I don't know that I am, to be honest. I'll see how it goes. Until I'm absolutely 100% finished, I'm not going to glue any of these bits on. But most of them don't need to be glued on anyway, because obviously it's just going to be standing there. it's going to be fine. So a little bit more grime over some of the parts and some of the bits that I've just added as well, just to bring it home and blend it in. And then we'll see how it looks and if I'm actually finished with it. I think I will be finished with it, but we'll see in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. There's a little bit for it to dry, but all in all, I'm quite happy. That looks a lot better than the original one. I'll drop a picture of this one and the picture I took before I started doing any of it, even before the bone colouring. And you can compare the two and let me know in the comments below which one you prefer. I know which one I'm going for. Lucky, because I've done a lot of work to make it look like this. But there we go. That's that. I shall get a picture of, say, it completed and end the video with that. So thank you all for watching it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's given you a few ideas as to how to improve the base without too much effort. A little bit of effort, but it goes quite a long way. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully the next issues will be arriving very, very shortly and we'll be able to absolutely finish it, get the rest of the stand set up and all done. So thank you for watching. I'll see you soon for the finish of it, and bye bye for now.